Okay, so we can start discussing on this. I plan to discuss the stress patterns in English with you. Okay, you would have already seen the lectures on them. We'll mostly discuss about the stress patterns, and additionally, we are also going to look at aspirations and syllabification. Okay, it is fairly a simple thing for most of the people, but sometimes several rules, and hence it's a difficult thing to master. But that's not the thing. It's actually all quite logical. If you try to understand that, it should be easy. You really don't have to remember um, as you think, right? We'll look through this. Let me take you through these stress patterns, and we'll try and understand how this works. Okay. So we'll first look at the general rules and then go to specific ones, and as in the general description of how uh, stress patterns work in English. Okay. So first thing is about the monosyllabic words. Okay, what are monosyllabic words? Or let's start talking about syllables first. Okay, before we come to the stress, because stress to mark stress on any word, it is important that you understand the idea of syllabification. What is your understanding of syllables? What are
Ma'am, in a word, we make vowel sounds.
yeah?
Uh, so, in a word, how many vowel sounds are
Hmm.
there? We can say that those are the number of syllables in that particular word.
Correct. So that's how
Yes.
you count the syllables in a word, right? But if you look at the aspect of syllables itself, all languages will have syllables, right? Some of the languages, instead of words, they have syllables, right? You might not find what you call as words in English or your languages. Instead, they just use syllables to speak with each other, right? If you look at the sounds in the nature, they have their syllables, right? You look at the sounds of the birds, or say the wind rustling, all of it has some sort of syllables. So what is it? In fact, when you call something a syllable, what is it? People who learn music would understand what syllables are, right? So syllable in any language basically means the smallest unit that you can find in a word. So these syllables come together to make your word. Or, in other words, words are basically a combination of one or more syllables. Some words may have just one syllable, some other words may have two, the other have three, some have more than three, right? So, you can have infinite number of syllables in one, right? So, we do not know which is the longest possible word or what is the longest possible number of syllables in a word. So, what you need to understand is that it's a group of syllables, one or more than one syllable that uh,
Form a
forms
word.
a form a word. Form a word. That's right. Okay. Uh, what does a syllable constitute? Right now, it is important to understand what the structure of syllable is. We keep talking about syllable, syllable. What is a syllable? Syllable is something that consists of at least one vowel sound, right? Which means when you talk about syllables, there should be the presence of at least one vowel sound in that. If you don't have a vowel sound, you cannot have a syllable. Everything else that comes around a syllable is the nucleus of the syllable is always a vowel. Whatever else you have is situated around uh, the vowel sound in a particular syllable, right? Sometimes you have a sound that goes before the vowel sound, sometimes a sound that goes after it. Sometimes you have both, one before and one after it. But certainly, what you cannot avoid in a syllable is a vowel sound. You cannot have a syllable without a vowel sound, which is where the argument that you cannot form a word without a vowel sound also comes, right? Words are essentially formed by combination of syllables. And if syllables cannot occur without a vowel sound, so does a word, right? This is the derivation of that argument. Yes, Chetan, you have a question?
Ma'am, when we say that syllable have a vowel sound in them, and without
Ah,
a vowel sound we cannot have a syllable. Uh,
yeah.
uh, so one vowel sound can have more than one vowels, right? Hello, am I
What does
audible,
that
ma'am?
mean? Yeah, you're audible. I'm
That
trying to
that
understand what it means.
uh, one or that in one or two vowels combined can make one vowel sound.
We
A
call
E A E that
huh,
A
huh. A and E are not vowel sounds,
no
they are representations. Huh.
uh,
You
uh,
mean A and E?
yeah and E
Huh,
and E
huh,
A E.
huh.
So
Hmm.
when we have a syllable that has A and E in it, so
Don't say A. You don't have a. Okay. A and E.
and
You
E.
mean A, right? When
Yeah,
you have A and E, you have the A sound, and usually these kind of combinations are called as diphthongs, not
yes,
as
ma'am.
vowel. Okay, but yes, they form a unit. If it is a diphthong, then they form a unit on there. They are vowel like well, different diphthongs are basically vowels. Okay, they're just combinations of two vowels. So yes, they also form a syllable. As in, they themselves, by themselves, can be a syllable, right? It is not necessary that it has a consonant along with it. By if you just have a as a thing on its own, then that can be a syllable as well, right? Which is why we say vowels are the most important part of a syllable, right? Without a vowel sound, you cannot call something a syllable. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Huh. All right. Okay, so that is the part on syllables. And by this logic, we also say that you cannot have words without vowel sounds, right? So it has to be a combination of various consonant sounds and vowels together in order to form your words too, which follows up from this argument that you cannot have a syllable without a vowel sound. Or to put it the other way around, the nucleus of any syllable is always a vowel, right? Or what is stressed in a syllable is always a vowel sound. When we also talk about the concept of stress, and you say the stress is marked on this particular syllable, the stress is actually taken by the vowel in that syllable. Okay, keep this part in mind. So now coming back to your topic on stress, monosyllabic words. Monosyllabic words are words with one syllable, right? The one which has only one syllable. Like for example, the word I, EYE, right? This is
Pay.
an example of yeah, pay. These are all examples of what? Monosyllabic words. This is one syllable in this, okay? And in the case of monosyllabic words, the stress is always on the vowel sound in the word, of course. See, in any syllable, the stress is taken by the vowel sound. In case of a monosyllabic word, since there is only one vowel sound, one syllable and hence one vowel sound, the stress is on that, right? The stress is on itself. Usually you mark it in the beginning of the word. That's all. Okay, so this is the case for all one syllabic or monosyllabic words in English. Now, the rules or the descriptions of stress patterns mostly apply to the words that are disyllabic and above them, right? So more than that. Let's look at some of the general descriptions first, and then we'll go to the disyllabic ones. Look at the first one, the most common unstressed vowel. Okay, so usually all vowel sounds that we have are stressed, but there's one vowel sound that is not stressed, and that is the vowel sound shwa. Okay, what is shwa? You are very familiar with this vowel. We discussed this why we were talking about vowels and consonants in English language. If you remember, this is the same vowel sound which is found in words like the following. So sofa, emphasis, rise, around, again, at, right? In the word sofa, you find the unstressed vowel schwa at the end of the word, right? So it's found the word final position. Sofa. It's not sofa. It's sofa. Okay. Sofa. Then in the middle of the words like emphasis. So it begins with a sound. Emphasis. Emphasis. Okay. So the sound that follows the consonant sound for in the word emphasis is the schwa sound. Then comes round rise, right? Round rise. When I say these words, if you've noticed, you will understand that, you're barely saying it, right? Barely saying it. So emphasis, round, rise, right? You can barely hear it. It's barely audible to people when I say these words. However, there's a presence of this schwa vowel in the beginning of it. Essentially, what is stress? When you say that something or a syllable is stressed, we're basically saying that that particular part of the word is said a little louder and in a little lengthier way, right? That particular sound, that is that particular syllable in the word, when you say that a syllable, that this particular syllable is stressed in a word, what you mean to say is that that particular syllable in the word is said with a little more loudness and a little it's said in a little more lengthier fashion, right? That is what stress means. Even in your day-to-day conversations, when you say some part of it is stress, that is what you mean, no? You lay a little more emphasis to it by making it a little more louder, okay? A bit louder and bit lengthier. So that is the meaning of the word stress, okay? So when you look at the schwa sound in these words, you'll notice that it is not heard very distinctly. You can't hear that sound very distinctly, which is why you call it unstressed. In Indian English, people do pronounce all of them very prominently. Like you won't hear people saying sofa. It's mostly sofa or emphasis or around or arise, right? Again, like we always say, we do not mark any variety of English as wrong, right? This is not the right way of saying it. But when you when your target is to achieve fluency in a certain variety of language, which is normally for everybody, the UK English or American English and so on and so forth, the New Zealand one or the Australian one. This is for people who are more, concerned about that kind of thing. And it's always nice to get closer to the fluency levels, although the way you're saying it is not wrong. Okay, there's nothing that you mark is wrong. As long as you're understood by the other person, it's fine. However, if you plan to improve upon the spoken part and the fluency aspect, fluency, again, to bring it to your attention, it is not just about accent and pronunciation. It's more about accuracy, right? When you talk about fluency. So this is an important part for a lot of people who want to work on their accents and their spoken language. But this is not a quintessential aspect. Okay, it's not something that you cannot do without. But it is always good to know about it, right? So this production of the schwa sound or the use of schwa sound in English words is something that you need to know, and hence this description on it. Okay, so sofa, emphasis, arise, round. Okay, these are all examples of the vowel sounds with the unstressed vowel sound schwa. Okay, from the point of view of stress marking, this is important because when you know that the vowel sound which is constitutive of a particular syllable includes the vowel sound schwa, you almost immediately know that that syllable will not take the stress. Okay, so because of this part, it is quite important from the stress marking point of view that you should know that schwa is unstressed. Hence, any syllable that is constitutive of the schwa sound will not take the stress. Definitely, it will not take the stress. So you can leave it out as far as the marking of stress or stress pattern is concerned, right? All right, some more example. So the schwa sometimes is the sole component of suffixes like right, er, as you find in words like teacher, brother, brotherhood, simpler. So again, in Indian English, people do completely articulate the r sound at the end, like brother and father, mother, sister. But you will see that in the prominent varieties, people do not do that. It's usually the schwa sound that ends within all these words. Right? Brother, simpler, teacher, sister. Okay, not sister, brother, simpler, and all that. Right. So that is on schwa. And remember, schwa is unstressed. So you find them in any syllable, you almost immediately should understand that that's not going to take the stress. That particular syllable will not take the stress. Now, about a bit more on prefixes and suffixes. Prefixes and suffixes in certain words do take stress on themselves. However, as a general rule or a general description, keep this in mind that they most often than not affect the stress patterns, right? So usually, in general terms, prefixes, particularly prefixes, they don't take any stress on themselves. Suffixes too have that quality. However, some of the suffixes, because they are a little weighty in the kind of syllables that they take, they can affect the stress patterns. We'll discuss some of those suffixes, the most commonly used suffixes which take stresses on themselves and can also affect the stress pattern in the original word when used along. But prefixes, usually, generally, they do not participate in the stress marking process. Or to say it in the other words, they do not affect the existing stress pattern in the original word. Okay. Now, if it is an adjective, look at this one. In nouns and verbs, often they don't make any changes, whatever it is. So, for example, if I have a noun like interest, okay, and if I use the suffix disinterest with it, the stress pattern doesn't change. Okay. In nouns, you usually mark it on the first syllable. The stress is always on the first syllable. So when I add the prefix dis to the noun interest, nothing changes. Okay, it remains the same. Disinterest marked on the first syllable, interest in the original word interest. I add dis to it, no change. Again, the stress remains on the first syllable of the word interest. Okay. Same is the case with verbs. So if you have, say, a verb like, okay, like, and I add dis to it, dislike, right? Now, because in verb, this is a monosyllabic verb, right? There's only one syllable in like. So by default, the stress is on the first syllable, right? And if I add prefix dis to it, no change. Again, the stress remains on the beginning of the syllable of the word like. Okay. So in nouns and verbs, usually you don't see any changes. In adjectives, however, if you have a prefix, adjectives again, they are stressed on the first syllable almost always. So the stress is again retained on the first syllable, right? So all in all, you can say that prefix do not bring about much of a change in the stress patterns in English words, okay? But the case of suffix is a little different. Some of them are neutral, they don't bring about any change, but there are a few others which can bring about change, and we'll discuss it in the last part of the slide. Okay. Is this understood, the basic part? I've marked few things in red here because that is not applicable. Just don't consider them. I've just marked it out. This is a PDF. I could not edit it, but when I upload it, I'll make sure I remove that part. Okay. Now about the disyllabic words. Okay. Nouns, adjectives, adverbs. Okay, they are more often stressed on the first syllable than on any other syllable. Okay, so what is the general stress pattern in nouns, adjectives, and adverbs? Where is the stress? Always on the first syllable, right? Huh. So adjectives, nouns, adverbs almost always take the stress on the first syllables. Very rarely do you find them being stressed on other syllables. And when does that happen? This usually happens when you have some suffixes that come along with the nouns, verbs, or adverbs. Okay. When certain suffixes are added to them, they can bring about a change in the stress pattern. They can result in a shift in the stress pattern in the word. But on their own, nouns, adjectives, and adverbs almost always take the stress on their first syllable. Okay. Let's look at a few cases where this is not the thing. Look at this one. Two-syllable nouns are usually stressed on the first syllable. Two-syllable adjectives are also stressed on the first syllable. Two-syllable verbs are usually, now, okay, verbs we'll discuss separately, but nouns, adjectives, adverbs, all on first syllable. Now, nouns may be stressed on the last syllable if there is a long vowel sound or a diphthong on it. Okay, look at the example here. Career, trainee. Okay, trainee, there's a long vowel sound at the end of the word trainee. Right, so from train, the verb train, you have the word trainee, right, which is a noun. So you have the suffix e added to it, and it's a long vowel sound. Same is the case with career. Okay, what does the noun career end in? It's a diphthong, ear, right? You have a diphthong ear. So in case your noun ends with a diphthong sound or a long vowel sound, then the stress is marked on the syllable
Diphthong.
with the suffix. On the diphthong, or the right way to say it, it is marked on the syllable carrying that particular diphthong or the long vowel sound. Okay, so like in this case, look at this one. E is a suffix by itself, so it takes the which is in the long vowel format. That takes the stress on itself. Okay, and then in the case of career, again you have a diphthong, right? It is also going to take the stress on itself, the syllable carrying the diphthong sound. Okay, so this is one thing that you need to remember with nouns. Even if you don't remember with the nouns, you can also remember or you can practice them as a part of the quality of a diphthong sound or a long vowel sound. Okay, or the suffix e, right? Any of this, whichever one works for you better, you can apply them like that. But this part does not change. Okay, like whenever there is a weighty vowel, a long vowel, or a diphthong involved, the stress definitely has to fall on that. Okay. Now about adjectives, right? The same thing applies in the case of adjective also. Some adjectives are stressed on the last syllable if there is a long vowel sound or diphthong in it. The example you have here is complete, extreme, right? Usually what is the rule? The rule is to stress it on the first syllable.
First syllable.
But in case, huh. So in case you have a diphthong or a vowel, long vowel sound like you saw in the case of nouns, the stress is always marked on the syllable containing the long vowel or the diphthong sound. Okay, so that is about the stress patterning in nouns and adjectives with two syllables. Okay, disyllabic nouns and adjectives. Same will apply to adverbs also. I have not included it here, but the same rule applies to adverbs too. Now about verbs, disyllabic verbs. Disyllabic verbs, unlike your nouns, adjectives, and adverbs, they take their primary stress on the second syllable. Okay. Examples given here is with the prefix, but with the prefix, these verb have become disyllabic. Actually, the verb is like in place, which is monosyllabic, but after you add dis and miss to it, it becomes disyllabic, right? Uh, because dis and miss cannot take any stress on itself, it's a prefix. Obviously, the stress is going to be retained on the stress in the original verb, like in place. But if I consider and give you a verb with two syllables, say, uh, refresh. Okay, again, refresh has prefix. Let me look at it. Invite. Okay, invite. Okay, in
Invite.
invite, in is not a prefix. Okay, invite is a one whole free morpheme. Where is the stress marked? If you
White.
apply this rule, before the second syllable, which is white, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So right before the sound were, you mark the stress on that word. So invite, okay, invite. More examples, something like, what is it? Invade, okay, for example, invade, invade, right? Where is the stress to be marked here? If you apply the rule, oh, there was somebody, okay. Where do you mark the stress in that case? In
Second syllable.
invade.
Wait. Wait.
Made.
Is everybody able to hear it? I'll leave the word in the chat. Invade, invade. If you apply the rule, then two syllabic verb,
Second syllable
wade,
with
right?
the stress. Wait.
Made.
Correct. Wade. So it's marked right before the second syllable, wade, right? There are several other examples you can use, like
Advise.
say, advise. That's true, right? So in advise, where do you mark it?
Ed would be the first syllable.
Wise.
Wise would be the second
Why?
syllable. And stress
Correct,
is on wise.
correct, right? So that
Like
is how the
relax.
relax, yeah.
Relax.
Relax, where do you mark?
Lack.
Lax.
Lax,
Lax.
right? Lax, correct. So most of your verbs are going to take the stress on the second syllable, right? So that's a general rule for marking stress. Sorry, there can be changes to this, but we'll see how that is. And you have understood this part, no? Dislike and misplace. These are both verbs, but then they are made by adding the prefix dis and miss. Because prefixes usually don't take any stress on themselves, you have retained the stress on the monosyllabic verbs like and place. That's all, which is by default on the initial syllable. Okay. Now we come to trisyllabic words. Okay. Trisyllabic is where you are going to find a lot of addition of suffixes and all that. Okay. But more or less, it remains the same. Let's see this change that happens while you introduce suffixes to the words, right? So let's go through this one by one. We first again look at nouns and adjectives and then go on to verbs, right? Look at this. Three-syllable nouns are usually stressed where? First syllable. Similarly, three-syllable adjectives are stressed where? On the first syllable. So there's no change in the rule between the trisyllabic and the disyllabic words. Okay. So again, generally you can say no matter how many the number of syllables in them, your nouns and adjectives and adverbs are usually marked on the first syllable of the word. Okay. Changes come to them only when there is an addition of suffixes. Certain kind of suffixes can bring
Diphthong or
about.
long vowel.
Yeah, diphthong and vowel, yes, that rules again stand. Diphthong and long vowel, of course, will take the stress on themselves if you have them in the word. Additionally, the addition of certain suffixes can also bring about that change. Just to demonstrate that, you have an example here. Look at this. Um, uh, photograph, photography, photographic. Okay, so your basic word is photograph, which is the noun. Again, photography is a noun. Photographic is what? Adjective.
Adjective.
Right? Photographic is adjective. Now the same word, now these are derived words, right? From the word photograph, you have photography and photographic. So look at how the stress changes in it. Even within the same word class, that is photography, which is a noun by itself, see how the stress is shifted from the first syllable to the second one, right? So it was on the first syllable for photograph because it's a noun. After you added the suffix y to it, right? You added a suffix y to it. The same word has changed its stress from the first syllable to the second one. Photography. See this? Huh? And then you have the last one, photographic, right? Photographic. What happened in the adjective? You have added the suffix ic, ic to it, and now the stress has changed to the third one. Or to put it the other way around, the syllable right before the suffix ic. Okay, that is how you actually describe it. The syllable right before, the syllable that's before the suffix ic, or you also call it the penultimate syllable. Okay, all of them mean the same. Penultimate means the one right before the last one. Okay, so this is how certain suffixes can bring about change in the stress patterns of word. Okay, we'll look at them more. We'll look at how many of them can work and if there is a way to group them together. But keep this in mind that suffixes, some of them can certainly bring about changes in the way a stress is marked in a noun and an adjective. By default, without any of these, they are marked on the first syllable, whether disyllabic, trisyllabic, or polysyllabic. But if you have the presence of certain suffixes, then this kind of changes can be witnessed. Okay. And of course, the rule of the long vowel and the diphthong taking the stress on itself stands here. About verbs. Now, there's a change in this particular part of stress marking in verbs from the disyllabic verbs. In disyllabic, the by default marking position was what? Second syllable. Now, what is the case with three-syllable verbs?
Understand.
On the first syllable, right?
First.
If you have more than two syllables in a verb, right, then it is going to be marked on the
Syllable.
first syllable. First syllable. Okay. So this is one difference, slight difference between the rule for the verbs with with two syllables and the one with three syllables. Okay. But the good news is verbs with three syllables are not that many in number. Okay, they're very rare. You have just a few of them. Most of the verbs are disyllabic in nature, right? And in case you find one that is uh, with more than two, like say three or more than that, then by default the stress is on first syllable. You don't even have to think where the stress is. Just go ahead and mark the first one. That's all. Okay. All right. So that's a little bit on that. Now the last part is on the suffixes. Let's look at this. First one, the I suffixes. Okay. I will also include the Y suffixes with it, right? So in case of I suffixes, basically they begin with I, right? IAL, IAN, ION, IOUS, IENT, ICAL, IC, ICS, ITY, IFY. You can call them ear, lien, shun, shears, shint, and all that, but just to give you a description. Uh, all of these I suffixes, they are going to take the stress if you find them in any of the word, in the derived word from a noun or a verb or an adjective. Uh, all of them will take the stress on penultimate syllable. Now you understand what is penultimate, so I'm not going to explain it, right? The one right before the suffix. That is what penultimate means, right? Whichever is your syllable right before the syllable carrying the suffix is where your stress is going to be marked. In case you have I suffixes like the one you see here, right? So provincial or Kantian or examination, okay, anxious, subservient, okay, cervical, okay, toxic. Um, yes, yes, correct. Proximity, okay, classify, protective, okay, or anything, whatever number of words you can make with this, multitude, okay, audible, premium, okay, maximum, whatever it is. All these words, they are going to carry the stress. The stress in those words would be on the syllable right before the syllable containing these suffixes. Okay, penultimate syllable. Now, before we look at the second one, we'll come to the third one in this one because that also follows the same rule. Able, ARY, essential, ERY, graphy, logi, TAL. You see, most of them have Y at the end, right? So all the Y suffixes also take the stress on the penultimate syllable. And you can also add the ones with able and TAL on it. So give me an example with able.
Habitable.
Durable.
Sorry.
Habitable.
Durable, habitable, readable, right? All of them are going to take the stress on what? Penultimate syllable. And all Y suffixes anyway will take it, right? Except for LY and Y, right? All the other one with ARY, ERY, graphy, logi, even the one in the first list, no? ITY, IFY, right? Look at them. Even they are going to take it on the penultimate syllable. Huh? So keep these things in mind. What with, give me an example with TAL, TETAL.
Dental.
Huh. Okay. No, in mental, can you separate the word from the suffix? If you take TAL out, then what is the word that remains? TAL cannot be considered a suffix to MEN there, no? Something with the uh, suffix TAL. This is to give you an example.
Fetal.
Fatal, again, can you separate TAL from that?
Parental.
Correct. Parental. Okay, good example. More? Non-committal, right? Have you heard this word? Committal,
Detrimental.
parental. Sorry?
Detrimental. Fundamental.
No, that is not that is AL. Okay, even parental is AL, sorry. But committal is a good example. Okay, look for this, look for words that end with TAL. I'm sorry, even parental is AL, not TAL. So keep this in mind. that suffixes are only possible. You can call something a suffix if you can separate it out from the root word. Okay, if you cannot have a root word after you separate it, then most probably not a suffix. It is the word is independent, a free morpheme on its own. So find words that have tal as their suffixes. Okay, for our sake, for the class, what you mean to say is if it has a tal suffix, then again the stress is on the penultimate one. Okay. So all of this, so you see most of the suffixes, they are going to take the stress on the penultimate one, huh? The ones that you see here. There are exceptions. Now, what are those? The second one, or, er, ly, and y. A, li, and e. Okay, the ones with these, they are going to definitely. So an example with or, the first one,
Director.
director, mentor. Okay, so they're all going to take the stress on the first syllable. And then the er one, you have a lot of examples: teacher, brother, sister, whatever you want to use. Okay, not brother and sister, teacher, speaker, dancer. Okay, they are all examples of the er suffix, and they also are stressed on the first syllable. Okay, so suffix does not take any stress. So is the case with ly. A lot of adverbs of manner take the ly suffix with it, right? So they are also going to be marked on the first syllable, and adverbs anyway by default are marked on the first syllable. So
Happy.
both of them, so they go hand in hand, and so are the case with the words that end with the suffix e. Okay, why? Yeah. So let's look at some more. You have just about one more in this one, and that is this one we already discussed, right? See this one. E is ik et. So refugee, like you saw in the first one, refugee, trainee, okay, Japanese, Chinese, okay. Ik is what?
Unique.
Unique is not a word with a suffix. Again, you have to be able to
Boutique.
separate it. Boutique,
Mystic.
mystique. Mystique can be an example. Uh,
Can
what
critique
else?
be also called a word with
Critique,
a
yes, yes.
suffix?
Yes, yes. Critique also can fall within that category.
Similarly, physique can also be.
Physique, yes, physique can also fall within that category, correct? Yeah. Yes, good. So, yeah, boutique, yes, somebody talked about boutique. No, boutique is also possible. A critique, boutique, physique, mystique, all of them are examples of the one that ends in eek. Eek, actually, not ik, eek. Difference between ik and eek. Okay, I see is ik, and this one is a long one, eek. Okay, so whenever you have a long, vowel involved in the suffix, then automatically the stress falls on the suffix itself. Okay, so which means if you have e or eek or ease or esk, they are all going to take the stress on themselves. That's the point here. Whenever you have a long one, it's going to take it on itself. And so is et, like etiquette, netiquette. It's a long one. It will
Cigarette,
also take the stress on itself. Sorry?
omelette. Cigarette, omelette.
Cigarette and omelette, I am not sure if they are uh, derived TTE, but certainly etiquette and all that.
What
Etiquette,
about
etiquette,
rosette,
yes.
ma'am?
Sorry?
Rosette.
Rosette, is it? Did you say rosette?
Yes, ma'am. Rosette.
Rosette, yes. Yes, rosette, yes. Rosette, yes, that is an example. Uh, Even words like suffragette, I don't know if you have heard about suffragette, majorette. These are a little archaic. We don't use them that commonly or frequently these days, but yeah, they are words that exist. Okay, et. The et suffix is not very common in the modern times. It actually is the derived a loan suffix from French. Okay, all these, the ink and s, and all of them, they actually come from
Can
French.
can silhouette be a word, ma'am?
Sorry?
Silhouette.
Silhouette.
Yeah, silhouette.
Silhouette, I am not sure. What is it? What does it mean?
The forms that uh, uh, say he saw a silhouette of a person through the window. Silhouette. Uh,
Silhouette. Can you spell it for me? I just want to check if I am hearing it right. Huh? Oh, that.
SILHOUETE.
Ah, got
Silhouette.
it, got it, got it. Got it. I was
Shape. A shape.
ha. No, silhouette. Is it sorry, suffix? You have
I
to.
don't know
But what
if
is the
there's a
root
root
word?
word.
That is what you have to check. That is what you have to check. Okay. Uh, Silhouette, I don't think is silhouette is used on its own, and even if it is, the word by itself may not be existing in English. Okay, the whole of the word might have been taken from some other language, and from the sound of it, it looks like it's taken from French. But the point here is when you break it open, even if you say silu and et, then the problem here is, do we have a word like silu in English, right? So we don't use it. Hmm?
Yeah, yeah, got it.
So if you don't have the existence of the word, then you really cannot separate them out. Okay, sounds like it has come from, you know,
French.
some form of combination, given it has et. But in English, we don't consider it since you don't use the root word in English. Okay, you use the whole of the word silhouette in English. That's why. Huh?
Okay.
So yeah, we don't consider that. Okay, all right. Now, so all of these, is, eat, et, and one more, esque, right? Picturesque, Kafkaesque, hmm? Is all of them. Isk also takes the stress on itself. And then the final one you have here, ALLY, okay? FESS, full, ish, less, the, hood, ship, and another one is ment, MENT, like you see in the word government, right? These are all examples of neutral suffixes. What does neutral suffix mean? No change. It does not bring about any change in the basic stress that you find, the primary stress of the original word. Let's take an example.
Go.
Happiness. Okay. In happiness, you have even ness, okay, not just ESS. I think I meant ness. I might have missed out the N there. Okay. The third one there is not ESS, it is ness, NESS. So if you look at the example, happiness, again, the primary stress on first syllable,
First syllable.
right? Happy. Ha. And ness is a neutral suffix. It does not bring about any changes. Hence, you're going to retain it on the first syllable, happiness. Same with government. Okay, what is the root word here? Government.
Govern.
Govern. And what is govern?
Uh,
Noun, verb,
a noun.
adverb, adjective.
Oh,
Govern. Govern is what?
uh, govern. It would be a verb, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a verb,
Action.
right? It's
Yeah.
a verb. And it's a disyllabic verb. So disyllabic verbs are
Govern.
marked on which syllable?
Second syllable.
Hmm.
One.
Okay. So where is the stress in the word government then?
Go. One. One.
One. Second one, because
Yes.
meant is a neutral suffix. It does not bring about any change, right? You
Yes,
can
ma'am.
check it online if you want. Government is marked on the second syllable. That's because of the reason is this that the suffix meant is a neutral suffix and it's a derived word from the verb govern, which is originally marked on the second syllable by rule. Hence, the stress is retained on the second syllable. Okay, so that's how it works. Another important thing, computer. Computer. Where is the stress
Compute.
in computer?
Compute. Computer.
Hmm. Computer, where do you mark the stress?
Pew.
Oh,
Computer,
compute.
yes. So the second syllable, right? Compute. Computer
Compute.
comes from is a derived word from the verb
Compute.
compute. right? So it is then by rule it's marked on the second syllable in compute, and because ER, like we already discussed,
Sure,
ER
sure,
again
sure.
does not affect the uh, it is also sometimes a neutral suffix, right? So since between, okay, no, this requires a little more explanation. Usually in the case of ER, right, this one, let me actually leave it otherwise.
Ma'am, in computer, the
Uh,
vowel sound in the end is schwa sound, right? Computer.
yeah, it is computer.
Hmm.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Huh.
Hmm.
So this is the one that you have, okay? And usually by rule, what happens? This one does not take, like you're saying, it will not take the stress on itself because this is a schwa, right?
Yes.
So by rule, it actually says that it should be marked if you find this particular sound as a suffix, in the words. The stress is usually marked on the first syllable, okay? But because the word you have here is a verb. The root word that you have here is the verb in case of computer, right?
So
The
it is the
basic stress
second
in
syllable.
any disyllabic verb is, since it is marked on the second one, you don't change it, right? So between this rule and the uh, stress rule for verb, the stronger one is the one of the verb one, right? Which is why you retain it. So don't be confused, don't think, but ER takes it on the first syllable, then why are we marking it on the second one in case of computer? The reason is this. The original one has it on the second one, and that is a stronger one than your suffix rule, right? So between the suffix rule and the base rule, you will have to choose the first one, huh? Which is why in computer you mark it on the second. Okay, so computer, compute, and from compute you have computer. That's all. Okay. What are the other ones? You have ALLY, ness, full-ish, so childish, okay, or careless. LY, you have a lot of them. Hood, likelihood,
Like
ship, friendship, okay. Um, all of them are going to take the stress on the original, wherever the stress is on the original word, that would be retained. No changes will happen to them after the addition of these suffixes. Okay, so they're called neutral suffixes. No change in the stress pattern. If you have this few of them handy, then you can mark stress for 90% or more than words. Okay, you really don't have to bother. Most of what we say applies to at least 80-85% of the words. There are exceptions, but then we do not ask you exceptional questions in the exam. You know these things, then even from the exam point of view, you are well covered. It's not a problem. Okay. One last thing with respect to syllables, stress, and other things, it's the counting of the syllables, right? Counting of the syllables very easy, like someone very rightly mentioned in the beginning of the class. You simply look at the number of vowel sounds in the word. Okay. Stress, of course, you can mark using these descriptions and patterns that we just discussed. But if the question is on how many syllables, then the short method that you use is to go and look at the number of vowel sounds in the word. Okay. So government, how many syllables?
um, um, mm, three syllables,
Three,
ma'am.
three.
Three syllables, right? So because you have three vowel sounds. There are three vowel sounds, and hence there are three syllables in the word as well. Another one, intoxicate. Intoxicate.
Four syllables, ma'am. Mm,
Four syllables. Because how many vowel sounds?
four vowel sound. In
Four
top,
vowel sounds.
in Kate.
Intoxicate. Intoxicate, right? Each has, the first three has one each, and the last one has a diphthong. Eight, right? So intoxicate. Four. You can take any one you want. Let's take the example pattern. Pattern.
Uh,
Hmm.
two disyllable.
Two. Disyllable, right? Suffix.
Disyllable, ma'am.
Disyllabic. Addition. Addition.
Trisyllable.
Trisyllable.
Trisyllabic, ma'am.
Right?
Trisyllabic.
Three. So addition, right? So a, e, and e are the ones that you have, right? So simple, simple thing. Just look at the number of vowel sounds you have. Even if you do not know the exact syllable boundary, if you know the number of vowel sounds in the word, it is easier for you to uh, tell the count of syllables. Syllabification requires a little more, and it's also an ambiguous area. There are several unsolved areas in where the exact syllable boundary, that is, where it breaks, is still a controversial thing for many words. But you can definitely know how many syllables if you look at the number of vowel sounds. Okay, that's all for this part. Any questions that you have with regards to stress? Okay, one more important part in stress, which I forgot, which is there in the lectures, but I thought it's important I mention before I close for today. That is functional stress. Okay. This is with regards to certain words that can be used as both nouns and verbs, right? For example, words like object, project, etc. Right? These ones, not remember that not all the words that you use as verb and noun take the same pattern of stress. So they will have to be learnt individually. But for exams, we always make sure that we ask the ones which are enlisted. So no worries on that part. But just to your knowledge, I'm saying this is a functional stress pattern is something that exists in English. However, this is not something that would apply to all the words of that nature. Okay, a few of them take this stress pattern. And what is it? When you use words like object or project, etc., as verbs and they can be used both as verbs and nouns. When used as a verb and when used as a noun, they have different stress patterns, right? So when used as a noun, like you know that all the nouns, they usually take the stress on which syllable?
First syllable.
First syllable, right? So this word, when used as, when it is used as a noun, it takes the stress on the first syllable. So object, right?
Object.
Object. But when I have to use the same thing as a verb, the stress
Object.
shifts to what?
Second
Second one,
syllable.
because verbs are marked on second syllable, right? This rule is
Yeah.
also known, right? Disyllabic verbs are marked on second one. So object is a noun, and when you use it as a verb, it is object. Okay, I object to your plan. Okay, please bring me the object on the table. So just to show the difference between these two, while you speak, okay, stress is applied mostly when you are speaking, right? So just to show the difference in the usage of the word as a noun and a verb, you mark it separately. The stress is marked separately. Please project. Please project the screen properly. Okay. Have you completed your project?
Okay.
Right? So this is the variation of using the stress here. So this is an important one. But a word of caution, not all the words that are used both as nouns and verbs follow this pattern. A few of them do. Of course, you don't have to learn them by heart or anything. Just when you chance upon these kind of words, just check, if they have this property or they're used separately. A few of them will definitely be handy to you, I think, through the lectures and the exercises we do. But do not worry too much about the ones that you don't know. Just keep this in mind. Okay. Know the commonly used ones. You don't have to know all of them. So, another one, the last one is about the usage of stress in compound nouns, okay, in compound words. So if you have compound nouns
Swimming
and
pool.
compounded, sorry,
Swimming pool. Right.
you giving me example?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, whatever. Any compound noun or any compound adjective, the stress is on. If you have a compound noun, obviously it is going to be on. Sorry. This is coming from. So in compound noun, what happens? Stress is obviously on the first one. Okay. And in compound adjective, where is the stress? Compound adjective.
One, two.
Second
Second,
Huh.
second, sir.
Yeah. Correct. Okay. So in compound adjective, that is when you say compound adjective, one of the word in the uh, compound is what? It's a it's an adjective, right? So for example, say uh, uh, old fashioned. Okay, this both are adjective. Old fashioned. Fashioned is
Narrow-minded.
also narrow minded. Correct. Exactly. So stress is on what? The second
The
one,
second
right?
word.
Second one. Then in noun, it is on the first one. Okay, now noun compounds, they will have it on the first one. If you have a verb in the compound, then you're going to have it on the second one. Like for example, overflow, understand. Okay, all of this is going to take the stress on the second one, which is in understand, it is going to be on stand. In overflow, it is going to be on flow, right? So these things keep in mind. Okay. All right. That's all. That's all you need to know about stress. If you know these 5 or 6 descriptions, then you can, like I said, easily mark for more than 90% of the words in English. There are exceptions, but then that's always there. There are reasons why people don't agree with certain things, but that's not our concern. But if something applies to more than 90% of the things, then that should go. No problem. Okay. Any questions that you have? We'll do the exercise. Unfortunately, we had to start a little late today because of all this technical problems. I will take up the exercise in the next week along with some other practice exercises. But any question that you have from what we have discussed?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. How about aspiration? Do you understand the concept of aspiration properly? Because it is
Ma'am,
directly linked with stress.
I understand the concept of stress, but in aspirations I have made a lot of mistakes in quiz two as well. So
Uh,
aspirations, it's a bit tricky for me because of how I pronounce probably. That's why I'm not able to get aspirations.
Shouldn't be a problem. See, this is just one rule with respect to aspirations in English, right? Look at these sounds. What are these? Pa,
Per,
cha, and ka.
ka.
Okay. What are these? We call them voiceless stops. Okay. They call voiceless stops. Only in the case of voiceless stops, what happens? There is an aspiration. So when they occur, let's take examples. For say I say something like, I'll give you 3 words with each of them in the beginning. So pat, then take,
Uh,
and
uh,
then um,
uh,
okay, look at this. Pat, take, and case. Okay. So when the voiceless stops perturker, they appear in the beginning of a sound. That is when they are the first syllable in a given word, right? If it's a monosyllabic word, like in the case of pat, take, and case, okay, you have just one syllable, and per appears in the beginning of that syllable, as in the first, it's the first sound in the monosyllabic word. It is aspirated. That is, we say, how do we say this when you're pronouncing it? You
uh,
do it like this, okay? Sorry. Okay, pat, okay? Don't read it as fur. That H in brackets indicate aspiration. Should be actually superscript. I cannot do it here, so I've just put it in brackets. Had. Okay. How does take become take? Take. Okay. What does case become? Case. Okay. Case missing, but case. Okay. So pat, take, case. When does this happen? When you have just one syllable. When the words are monosyllabic and they begin with the sounds pa, cha, or ka, pa, cha, ka are aspirated. You say pat, take, kiss. Okay. Now, another rule is when you have more than one syllable. For example, look at the word impinge. Okay, impinge. 2 syllables, right? What is it? Imp and pinch. 2 syllables. And what is here? What, which is the one that is stressed here? First syllable or the second syllable?
Second syllable.
Second syllable, right? This is also because im is a prefix and it does not take the stress, so automatically the stress is on the second one. Pinch, right? In
Also
this case,
because it's a verb.
sorry,
Also because it's a verb.
also because it's a verb, correct? Anything. In any way, this is the whichever rule you apply, you know that the second one is a stress. This case again, how do you do that? Impinge. This is again in aspirated. Okay, because although per appears not in the first position, it appears in a syllable that is stressed and it appears in the beginning of a syllable that is stressed in the word. Okay, but this is not going to be the case in a word like, say, impart. Okay, in a word like this, recipe. Okay, where is the stress in recipe?
See, second syllable.
Recipe.
Last syllable.
Last syllable.
First syllable. First syllable. First syllable. What is recipe? It's a noun, right? Isn't it? Recipe is a noun, so it is going to be stressed on what? The first syllable, right? In this case, you again have per here, right? Although it has per, it does not have the stress on it. Okay? Even if it is not in the first place, in case of impinge, per was aspirated because it appeared in the beginning of the stress syllable. But in the case of recipe, it is not in the first position. And even if that is not the case, it is also not found in the syllable, in the beginning position of a syllable that is stressed. Here the stress is on the first syllable, right? So in this case, per is not going to be aspirated. Okay, so it's going to be recipe, not recipe. What the difference between two?
Then the first one, ma'am, the for is in front of the stress syllable,
Huh.
and in the second one, uh, uh, it's not associated with the stress syllable. Uh,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
stress
So
syllable is the first syllable in recipe.
correct. Correct. So in the second word, the per that you see is not aspirated. Aspiration is only when it is a part of the stress syllable. It appears in the beginning of the stress syllable. Okay? It's the onset of the stress syllable, to be more clear. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Understand? This is the
Yes.
only thing you have to know about aspiration. That's it. Nothing more. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, but we'll go over it once again. Although I think it is clarified, but if we need more discussion, we'll do that while we do the activity. But this much is understood, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions that you have from this?
No,
All good?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Just
Got it.
the aspiration, if you can again, will if we take it in
Ah,
details again.
Yeah,
Aspiration.
yeah. We'll do that in detail when we do the exercises. We have a few set of words there. I think the more you look at them, I think it'll be clear. We'll do that in the next class.
Okay.
Ah, so, but stress and everything fine.
Yes,
Syllables,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
counting the syllables, not syllabification, but rest of the
Yes, ma'am.
things fine.
That. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right then. Thank you. We meet next week again and we do the exercise.
Thank you,
All
ma'am.
right.
Have
Okay.
a nice day.
Sure. Same to all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay.